My name is Emily Kinsky, and I'm a professor at West Texas A&M University. It's not far from a road you may have heard of, Route 66, and near the second largest canyon in the United States. At WT, I teach classes related to PR and media innovations and design, and I'm the advisor for our student-run PR firm, 1910 PR, and it has been a pleasure to get to work with Julie O'Neill and Michele Ewing. I'm going to give them a chance to introduce themselves as well.
Hi, my name is Julie O'Neill, and I'm a professor and associate dean at Texas Christian University in Fort Worth, Texas. I'm also currently the chair of the Institute for Public Relations Measurement Commission and senior associate editor for the IPR Public Relations Journal. And now I'll turn it over to Michele.
Hi, I'm Michele Ewing. I'm a professor at Kent State University in Kent, Ohio. I teach in the Public Relations undergraduate program at Kent. I also serve as a sequence coordinator for the PR program. My research area focuses on digital communications, internal communications, as well as minimizing and managing fake news crises. I serve on the National Public Relations Society of America Board of Ethics and Professional Standards, and we're looking forward to sharing our study with you today. So, Emily?
Yes, today we're going to talk about how communication practitioners are leveraging technology and data to drive insight, innovation, and action. As PR practitioners, the three of us want to stay on top of things. And then as scholars, we're curious and we want to know more about current practice and trends, things that are coming. As professors, we want to train our students to be prepared for the roles to come. We want to say thank you to the Commission on Public Relations Education for inspiring this research project, and to the Bob Schieffer College of Communication at TCU for helping fund the transcriptions that we needed for these interviews. By the way, CPRE will celebrate its 50th anniversary next year. So as professors and scholars, we recognize technology and the use of data within the professional communication world has changed dramatically in recent years. In fact, someone in a meeting earlier this week called it a seismic shift, and it really is. As researchers, we know the value of data, the importance of solid insights that you can pull from analysis, and we want to help our students also learn how to glean those insights and lead to effective action. And that's what inspired this research. We know that a first step in any kind of research is looking at what's already known. In our review of previously published articles, we found this report that pointed to PR practitioners being underprepared and underskilled when it comes to data competency. We also found previous research about how PR professionals are using data currently for scanning issues and environmental scanning, watching for crises, monitoring, watching out for disinformation and misinformation, as well as for A/B testing. So these are some ways that currently data is being used and has been studied thus far in professional communication. Also looking at audiences, their demographics, creating profiles, doing social media listening and analytics, as well as identifying influencers and journalists and amplifying their messages. So in our study, we interviewed 28 communication professionals, had conversations with each one for 45 minutes or so. All of these participants were senior level communication practitioners who had work. Either they worked themselves or they oversaw the work with data and analytics. And these people ranged from managers of communication departments, CCOs, CMOs, vice presidents, directors, founders, and even CEOs of their own companies. And now I'm going to hand it over to Michele to share some of our findings.
So we asked two research questions. The first one being, what are the perceived opportunities and challenges with data and digital analytics? And the second question, how do practitioners create an environment to encourage discovery and innovation through data analytic tools? I'm going to talk about the findings for the first research question. So that being, what are the perceived opportunities and challenges with data and digital analytics. And when asked about this, three key themes emerged. The first being the opportunity to access a wealth of data to better inform and measure public relations strategies. The respondents talked about learning insights about influencers, content strategies, and channels, and how these insights help us develop more effective public relations strategies and tactics that produce documented results. And I'll share a few examples in a moment, but first I want to talk about the other two themes. The second opportunity is enhancing abilities for environmental scanning, issues and reputational management. Respondents discussed how analytics can help public relations professionals become more proactive with managing risk with organizations through identifying and monitoring access, how opponents access our channels and the likelihood of potential attacks against our organizations. And they described that this opportunity presents a different state of preparedness than public relations had in the past. This ability to closely monitor and analyze data generated from social conversations and behaviors on digital platforms can be extremely valuable to protect an organization's reputation. The third opportunity focuses on the counseling and storytelling skills expertise for public relations professionals. Public relations can lead analytics in an organization through combining the ability to understand data with counseling and storytelling skills. The respondents discussed how storytelling is critical in making data more meaningful and helping others understand it, particularly with senior leadership. For example, our respondents in our study explained that peer professionals can use their expertise with understanding audiences and relationships to help senior leaders and other internal audience align the data across the organizations and help it be more meaningful for the organizations. And another leadership opportunity is respondents talked a lot about how peer professionals who champion data, they're more likely to be promoted and for those skills and then help lead the organization with data analytics. So I want to take a deeper dive into working smarter. So when we asked the PR professionals about this, the benefits of measuring and improving a campaign in real time was discussed over and over. Respondents discussed how data and digital analytics create opportunities to be more predictive and prescriptive in communications measurement. Respondents explained that digital analytics offers a deeper dive into testing and evaluating content through using the data to understand the audience's interests, the audience's preferences, and their behaviors. So, for example, we can learn about which content strategies trigger engagement, and therefore we can then improve our content in the future across communications channels. And then by giving the audiences more content that is useful, it creates a better experience for them and also then strengthens the relationship between the organization and the audiences. Another way of working smarter through using data and digital analytics involves identifying and engaging with relevant journalists and other influencers who can help us connect with our audiences. Respondents has talked a lot about identifying the top influencers by topic and even determining who and what influences those influencers. So, for example, if we can determine who's influencing a journalist, we can then connect with those influencers and then help us connect with the journalist. And it also can help us inform with our media relations strategies and identifying better what journalists topics that they want to cover and what resources they want to use. So again, enhancing our media relations strategies. And the third way of leveraging data to work smarter talked a lot about the importance of connecting communications outcomes to business objectives. And we know sound public relations practice that we need to do that. We need to show our value. And through understanding data and digital analytics, we can leverage this data to help us show and document how public relations and strategies and tactics actually help organizations influence the achievement of their bottom line objectives. So with all these opportunities, there's also challenges with digital and data analytics. One of the key challenges focuses on a lack of understanding about connecting, aligning, and applying data across an organization. Respondents talked a lot about the vast wealth of data I remember one of the interviewees talked about, the challenge of seeing the trees from the forest, but overall how you weave in and understand that data and connect it. Because one of the key challenges with this lack of understanding is drawing dots where they're not meant to be and leading to the wrong conclusions. And there's also challenges with aligning data across different data sources. So to overcome this, the respondents talked a lot about structure comes from understanding what drives and impacts successful communications process and what influences opinions and behaviors, and then understanding how to connect those communication outcomes to those business objectives. They talked a lot about in terms of collaboration, peer review can play important roles in mitigating wrong conclusions with data analytics. But overall, understanding how, for example, engagement on a social channel might then lead to clicking on a link for more information, which with that more information might lead to either a changed attitude or an interest in a service or a product. The second challenge deals with data gaps across an organization as well as across global markets. For example, privacy laws, differences in platforms, and other issues create access issues for data alignment. For example, respondents shared that it's often much easier to access US data versus data in some global markets because of those differences in rules and laws and regulations. The other challenge is that, technology just keeps changing. The digital landscape just keeps changing, and it's tough to stay current with those changes. For example, respondents talked about the death of cookies and cited that as an example of, okay, we can no longer use those to understand insights. Or they talked about how Google Analytics has now made changes that hinder the ability to track individual users and understand behavior. So what we used to be able to do with analyzing data, some things we can no longer do. A third challenge, and I don't think this will surprise anyone, but there's an apprehension about working with numbers. And there's this fear of math. Respondents discuss the challenges of motivating staff members to embrace numbers and making the time for training, as well as encouraging senior leaders to invest in resources so that their teams can learn about data and digital analytics. They talked a lot about this investment is critical to stay current within the digital landscape. And the next slide it kind of brings us to life. So a senior vice president and chief communication officer said, many organizations understand that this is a journey that will take time, commitment, and investment. And that investment includes developing new talent with on-the-job training. So again, it's critical for organizations to work with senior leadership to invest those financial resources, as well as giving their teams time to learn about digital and data analytics. The second quote from a chief marketing officer, businesses run on numbers. So if you're unwilling to grapple with the numbers, it's unlikely that you will advance in your career at the same rate as someone who's willing to grapple with the numbers. And this goes back to what I earlier said about how respondents talked about people who become champions of data within their organization, that it creates additional leadership opportunities and even promotion. So overcoming these challenges. So these are just some ways that are first steps to overcome the challenges that I just shared with you. The first being that, training for data analytics, motivating the staff, become more comfortable with telling the story behind the numbers, viewing data and digital analytics, like showing your teams that these are valuable tools and resources that can help them do their jobs better. That's critical to motivating them to taking the time to learn about data and digital analytics. And also then again, involving senior leadership to provide that financial support for training, technology, inspiring a work culture. And the opportunity for lifelong learning, it connects back to our literature that focused on the importance of sense-making skills needed for digital transformation. And these sense-making skills included adaptability, a mindset for lifelong learning, emotional intelligence, and an enhanced decision-making analytic skills. And Julie's going to share some of our study findings that show how to create a culture that inspires this mindset that embraces lifelong learning as well as inspires innovation.
Yeah, and so thanks, Michele. When we were talking to the communication practitioners, we were very curious about how practitioners are fostering discovery and innovation through data, and how can we create this environment, a workplace culture, to foster that. And so when we look at this overarching idea of discovery and innovation, we really heard from people 3 primary takeaways. One is that practitioners are seeking to foster a culture that enables risk-taking, creativity, and curiosity. A second major takeaway is that they're trying to create and enable diverse team structures as we look at data. And third is really the importance that we have to support and champion our employees. So for the first overarching theme of how do we encourage risk-taking, creativity, and curiosity among our employees, we heard really 6 major takeaways from folks who talked about this in one form or another. And the first was giving employees the permission to fail. That's something we do as educators as well. Can we create that safe space? But as employers working with communication and data, we need to let our people know that any time spent is not a waste, or that it's the wrong answer. Another major takeaway we heard was that we need to have rigorous honesty, and if we're willing to fail, we need to be honest in that and not try to sugarcoat something that may not be what we wanted to hear. So again, it needs to underpin all of our work. Third, we actually heard from participants that they actually reward failure in their organizations. They promote failure because that's really where you get to the good insight. We heard about having the mistake of the month, the biggest flop of an idea, or the genius award. But again, creating that environment where people are taking that risk, and we reward failure in small ways, of course, not with a client, but within our organizations as we seek to look for solutions. We perhaps heard more than anything else the importance of asking good questions. And so when we look at data and how can we really encourage that discovery and innovation, it really starts with good questions. One participant talked about it takes 5 whys to get to the real truth, the real value, the real metric, the real outcome, the impact, whatever they're aiming for. Participants also talked about the importance of engendering a culture of creativity. That is not just analytical skill sets, why that is important in looking at data, also being creative and what can we do to foster that, whether those are things we do outside of the office or inside the office. But again, those brainstorming sessions or doing things like painting or guitar playing, we need to remind ourselves to foster that creative element that we all have. And we can be creative when we look at data. And then finally, the last thing we heard about was the importance of being a contrarian and looking at context and assumptions. Again, always asking those questions, being critical, being curious. That's a mindset, and that's something that we can foster as employers among our teams. The second major theme we heard from folks when looking at data for insight and discovery and innovation was the importance of our team structures and how we set that up. And one thing we heard from participants was that it's less about when we're hiring for someone to work on our teams, it's less about the degree that someone has, but it's really more about someone's mindset and whether that person is curious and inquisitive, because many folks can be trained to work in this space. So it's really that mindset. Participants also talked about facilitating communication meetings among people with different backgrounds, different departments, experiences, party lines. Again, this should make intuitive sense. If you want greater innovation, we need more diverse perspectives to look at material. We also heard from participants about the idea of internally selling our ideas to get buy-in in our approaches to data and data analytics, This might be selling that happens among your communication team or working with human resources or marketing. But again, almost like a mini show and tell, looking at internal departments almost like clients to try to sell and promote some of those things that we're working with data. Because then people have greater buy-in and might also, again, come together around that data. And finally, we heard mostly from folks about the importance of supporting and championing employees on this data journey. The one is the idea of training and self-learning and really promoting that culture. Giving people the time and to go out there and be the hero, finding out from a webinar and sharing that with the team. We heard that a lot about how they build that into the schedule. We also heard from participants about the gift of time, and that when people are just, overwhelmed with other materials, it's hard to really think. But we need to give people time to think and look through that data and how they might innovate. If they're on a tight deadline, it's hard to do that really good thinking that can lead to that innovation or breakthrough. On a related note, people mentioned that when we're under these tight pressure, these tight deadlines, and these 80-hour weeks or 60-hour weeks that some of us may work, that again, you really can't expect that good insight or creativity to finding a solution with that kind of pressure. And so again, giving people some space to step away from work and to come in recharged with a fresh idea in mind to looking at our projects. Some of our participants talked about the importance of mentoring and coaching employees. Some of this is happening in one-on-one sessions where a supervisor is sitting with someone underneath them and coaching them in a one-on-one scenario and just pushing them a little bit more. We also heard about group settings where teams will follow up. Well, person A presents an idea, and then person B is asked to follow up with that and see how they might add to that idea that was presented by employee A. So again, it's this idea of this constant mentoring and coaching of employees and reminding them of the opportunities that we have to work in data and in data analytics. And finally, and kind of related probably to that, is this idea of really cultivating passion and having fun. I love this quote from a person who works for an agency, and she said, because it's a career, you're doing this 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week, it shouldn't be a chore. It is work, but there's enough data in there and a lot of work that you can do to make what you want it to be. Again, finding something that's fun, looking for the passion and what we can do to make it a little more enjoyable every day. So in conclusion, what we found from our interviews with these practitioners with a wealth of experience was the importance of remaining flexible, curious, creative, and eagerness to learn new tools and ways to use them, and to always be ready to pivot. We see data as an opportunity for people in public relations and communication to really continue on that journey to leadership. Data is one more tool that we can use in our toolkit, because at the end of the day, we're not data scientists. We bring a lot of things to the table. We can bring strategic counseling, we bring storytelling, and we can bring our expertise of data. Really, these three things can be seen as comprising the trifecta of data leadership in public relations and communication. There's a lot of opportunities moving forward, and it's up to us to seize this opportunity and to take advantage of that. In the words of our academic colleagues, Sommerfeld and Yang, PR is at a crossroads where data-driven insights are taking the field into new directions. And I hope you've enjoyed our presentation. If you have additional questions, please contact one of the three of us, and we'd love to talk to you more. Thank you.